So, all right, so hello, my name is Shayla. Um, Last video I didn't say that because I am very awkward. um, I have a lot of videos on here and I have talked about my mental health struggles. I've talked about my physical struggles. I've talked about a lot of things on here. So, um, today I'm going to talk about my autism journey. And I know everybody is saying that, oh, that's a hot topic, blah, blah. Look, I was in the hospital and I was diagnosed by a team of people, and I didn't know that this was happening to me. For many years, I thought my diagnosis was something else. And um, yeah, for 20 years, I was misdiagnosed. I was medicated. I was completely comfortable being treated some as something else, and people were completely comfortable treating me as something else. And um, so yeah, so I'm gonna just share my journey because um, I I don't know if it can help somebody. I know that this didn't just happen overnight. This has actually been over a year that I didn't tell anybody these things. I've actually been going to therapy about this, and um, I'm a late diagnosed adult. I'm 40 years old. I found this out when I was 38, actually, and then I started to go to therapy. I'm actually going to be going to my first conference next week with late diagnosed adults, and that's kind of why I wanted to be more comfortable sharing my story, because I know that there's other people like me. And when I started to go to work and have to ask for reasonable accommodations, because um, what work was the catalyst. I needed time away from work because I was having 19 and 20 panic attacks a day because, like I said in the previous video, I work at Sephora. And I kept thinking that I was doing something wrong because I have such a high level of anxiety. And I've always had that level of anxiety. But until I found out that I was autistic, I just constantly thought I was doing something wrong, or um, people were watching me. Um, but the reason why I took time off, or I literally I had just got Employee of the Month, but the paper is placed in the back room where everybody can see it. But in my mind, all I could think about was I left that paper at on the on the wall, and at home I was having panic attacks because I was like, was I supposed to leave it there? Was I supposed to take it home? And at that time I'd been working at the company for about a year, and I still hadn't asked anybody for their phone number. And in therapy, that was a really big deal to me because at this big age, the only friends that I had were the only two people that I had met in high school, and that was something that really bothered me because I'm able to make friends online. Like, talking like this is okay, but actually face to face with people is such a hard thing for me. And being able to do makeup, being able to dress up and make Shayla is easy, but actually talking to people and asking people, what do you like to do? Or I know so much about Hello Kitty, penguins, Kobe Bryant. Oh, I could write a book, write a novel. And my close friends and family would tell you that I used to talk them to death about those things as a kid. But we all thought those were just Shayla traits, or, me just eating random foods and being extra. We all thought that that was just the way I was. So, you know, I've always had these routines and had these things that I had to do, and people just kind of navigated around them, and so did I, until I became an adult, and it was just too hard for me to cope with. And it was just too difficult for me to continue in social spaces. Um, I would really have breakdowns because I felt like I wasn't able to connect with people deeper. I wasn't able to hold or have consistent relationships. Or sometimes when I was in therapy, I would describe myself as an adult baby because I felt like there were just so many things that I just couldn't grasp. I was good at work, I was good at being a mom, but I just, in my mind, I felt like I wasn't. And that can cause so much depression. That can cause so much anxiety because if you are outwardly able to do these tasks and you're able to get accolades for these things, you're able to get awards for these things, and outward you seem perfect, which is such a that is such a double-edged word and double-edged sword. You're able to, being smart and being able to do so many things makes it so much harder for you to get these diagnoses and to get care. I was in and out of facilities because of panic attacks, because of depression, because of anxiety, my entire life, to the point where it became debilitating, to the point where I was unable to work, to navigate, to cope. So when I did finally meet a doctor who could just look at me and see that that was going on, it wasn't a diagnosis that I was seeking. It was, in a way, a diagnosis that saw me, because at the point that I was at, I was like I said, I was in a facility already. So what happened was they basically had to break it to me that I had to stay longer and to tell me, this is what's happening to you and you need to stay longer to get the care that you need. And at first, I didn't really tell anybody. I told my best friend, and I told the people that were close to me, of course my family and everybody, because those are the people that take care of me. Like, there's a lot of moving parts to me, and there always has been. So I guess it wasn't a surprise. Just like I said, because I was having that many panic attacks is debilitating. Not being able to sleep at night, not there's just little things about me that have always been the same. Parking in little places, or there's a list. But just being able to know how to handle myself now. No, there are not medications for autism, but there are sleep medications to know that I'm not. I always had insomnia, and for me, I almost felt like it was going to be a death sentence because I was seeing so many people just die from that. Or I didn't know why I was, I was losing careers because I was a nurse at one point. I'm still a nurse. I keep my nursing license active. That's a video for another time. I don't want this to be a very long thing, but I just kind of want to it was kind of like when I was having these troubles at work, which led me to go to the hospital, which led me to be seen, that's basically what it was. They led me to getting these diagnostic exams, which were frustrating. It wasn't like, oh, here you go, here's a piece of paper, bam. No, it was a very long process. It was about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. This is what we think is happening to you. There's going to be a group of tests. So I had to go to another facility where they ran a bunch of exams, and they were like the same tests that children have to go through. to find out if they have autism. Oh, here you go. The same test that children have to go through, I had to go through to see if I had autism. And sure enough, I did, at a level that required substantial support. And I had to allow myself the time to grieve that. Not necessarily a loss of me, but there were times where I was like, okay, that tracks, that makes sense. But for me, I was always having trouble in relationships, or I was always prone to abuse, physical, trigger warning, sexual, emotional, every kind of abuse you can think of, I endured. And I don't have to go into the details, and I'm not going to sit here and say it was because of autism, but no, it was because I wanted friends and I wanted people to see me. And there were times that it was just because I felt different and I wanted to, I don't know, fit in. And I never felt like I fit in. I always felt like I had to play a part and be something. Oh, that's why it's probably no secret. I was in drama, so I was great at that because I was so good at becoming a character. I was so good at people watching and seeing what I thought was normal because I wanted that so bad. And so now that I understand what that longing was, I get it. And now I kind of feel like I'm on this mission to show people that, society has this thinking that, autism is little boys with trains, but it is called autism spectrum. And I hate the word disorder because I don't feel like it's a disorder. That is just the way my brain works. And there's some days where I could do everything, and I can do everything. There's nothing that I cannot do, but there are just differences. And sometimes I do notice those differences, and I feel like it's the social differences that tend to bother me. And I didn't feel like I noticed them until I was an adult and I got out of school and I figured out, hey, my friends can do this differently and I can't. And that's why I wanted to talk about these things. And, I will make more videos about the diagnostic process because I think people do want to know about that. I did have to talk to my primary care provider because I did have to set up that appointment myself because I was in a facility. I was in an outpatient therapy program, and then I had to take the steps to there's places that you have to sign up to go because I did meet all of the criteria. So the next steps was for me to get that, and then once that happened, yes, I was diagnosed formally with autism. And so I did put myself into adult support groups. I did get a therapist that was licensed to work with adults with autism. I took the steps necessary to treat myself. And, when I did get the packet that outlined, what was going on with me mentally, I gave those to all of my doctors. It was a very long and thick packet. I gave those to every one of my doctors so that they could have a plan now and understand what was going on. So everybody was on board because it was 40 years of flying blind and treating me the way they wanted to and filling me up with meds and, kind of just doing their own thing. So now I kind of felt like I could advocate for myself. And honestly, as a woman of color, that felt like empowerment for the first time. And that's a huge thing. And so if I could give that to people medically, I think that's what I want to do. So I know a lot of people, like I said, think this is a hot button topic, but for me, it wasn't. I've been treated for every disorder under the sun. And because of being a woman of color, being a Black woman, being deemed aggressive, being deemed depressive, being deemed you name it. And finally, just somebody seeing me and hearing the trauma that I've gone through and listening to my story and finally figuring out what was going on and not just seeing things. So that's why I'm making this video, so that maybe other people that are going through the same thing won't have to. All right, so that's it. I am a woman that has autism. And sometimes I can't make content all the time, and sometimes I can't do everything all the time. But that doesn't change who I am. That just is a part of me. So I'm glad I made this video, and if that sounds like things that you've gone through, you know, maybe you need to talk to your primary care provider and your therapist, because it's kind of a team effort. It's not just one person. It's a neurological thing that affects all of you. So if these are things that you have dealt with, because I dealt with it my whole life. And now that I'm 40 and talking about it, maybe other people don't have to wait till they're 40. That's a long time. All right, I'll see you next video, and it won't be so deep. I think me and my daughter are gonna go eat snacks. Okay, bye.